All right. All right. Recently, I watched a video by Cappy Army where he was talking about UFOs, and little did I know that a month ago he already put out a UFO video. So he's put out 2 UFO videos. And if you watched that previous one with Chris at Cappy Army where I watched his UFO video, you know how much I absolutely loved it. And so to find out he's got another, we're diving in. We're diving in. You know I love the weird and wacky. Is he going to talk about Lou Elizondo? Is he going to talk about, what's he called? What's he called? David Grush. He's going to talk about Bob Lazar. Who knows? But I love this stuff. This is my cup of tea. This is the Venn diagram of my weird UFO hobbies that I love and also the military stuff overlapping, and I'm just in the middle. You know what I mean? I'm in the middle and I'm all for it. So Chris, keep putting out UFO videos, mate, because they're sick. And I'm very excited for this one. It's 23 minutes long, so sit back, fill up your chug, which if you haven't got one, if you haven't got a chug yet, I don't know what you're doing. Go buy yourself one. It'll last you a lifetime if you look after it, because you can take the metal part out and put it in your dishwasher to protect your wood. Watch how satisfying this is as well. That's so satisfying. Peak design, that. Handmade here in the UK. You can get your full fist in there and hold that, which is always nice. Girthy rope. And it's 10% off. It ships to America. And people are buying them like crazy. Apparently, even the fat electricians bought some. Can you focus on me, mate? Can you focus on... Come on, camera. What else? Check out Morale. If you're in the UK, buy a pack of Morale. Try it. Going to some festivals soon, selling that. And I've got some other stuff I'm working on, but you'll find out when it comes out. So sit back. Let's find out what Chris is going to weird us out with.
This is the most terrifying video you'll ever watch on this channel. And if you don't know why, then you don't know enough about the UFO problem. The UFO phenomena is real, and it poses a significant risk to national defense. But those aren't my words. Those are the conclusions reached in dozens of newly released and declassified documents stretching back to World War II. So time to stock up on tinfoil and start up that neighborhood resistance cell XCOM style.
It all starts when the US was working on nuclear bombs. What was that? The Manhattan Project? It all stems from the Manhattan Project. I'm telling you right now, guys, I know this stuff. I've read the books.
Because alien disclosure is a disaster for national defense. Take this footage from an American F-16 fighter jet intercepting an unidentified object. The concern is that even trained military personnel and pilots, equipped with the world's most sophisticated sensors, still couldn't immediately identify what they were tracking. What's even more of a nightmare is that they fired a missile at the thing, blowing it to pieces. So much for we come in peace. It's not even the first time that we've fired at these aircraft before trying to clap alien cheeks. Here we're seen firing a Hellfire.
Clap alien cheeks. Oh my God. Clap alien cheeks. I'm all for it. The thing is, right, like, if you look at it, we love the weird and wacky, but if you, I've spoken about this before, if you take the weird and wacky stuff out of it, it is a national security threat. That's like first and foremost. Like, it needs to be seen as a national security threat. These are things in our airspace that we don't know what they are, and we need to know what they are so we can protect ourselves in case they're a threat. It's as simple as that. I don't think the China, I don't think the Russia, I don't think the North Korea, China, I don't think they're any of them. I love doing Donald Trump impressions. I know the best words. I'm so bad at it. I'll get better. I promise I'll get better.
Missile at another UFO. It connects with the object and then bounces off. A strange object changes shape here and then zips across the screen faster than anything we have is capable of moving. The same is true here. An unidentified object passes near US naval forces. These objects terrify the military that a foreign reconnaissance system could be mapping radar frequencies, communications, and fleet movements. These possibilities require completely different responses, and commanders have only seconds to decide whether or not to start a potential intergalactic war or possibly shoot down a Chinese drone.
I'm up for an intergalactic war. I'm up for it. Let's have a bit of excitement. The world's boring. It's boring and depressing. I want to see some aliens. You know what I mean? I want to see a UFO go by and be like, whoa, it's going to get me. I don't know. Is it going to get me? Everyone hide. I don't know. A bit of excitement in me. I'm saying that. saying that, if it actually happened, I got kids, and be like, lads, get in the van. Silas Jr., get in the van. We're disappearing. We're going to Scotland, to the Highlands, and getting out of here. That's what I'd be doing. If it all did go weird.
For decades, the government treated UFOs as a conspiracy theory, but starting in 2025,
There he
Congress
is.
pushed for greater transparency,
David Grush.
while the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or the AARO, expanded its release of military footage in declassified investigations. Anyone now today with an internet connection and a warm pulse can jump online and download this footage themselves. When the Pentagon released their fourth batch of UFO documents to the site in July 2026, this footage here is what officials now describe as the clearest video ever released of these UFOs. It shows a large, two-tiered object that you're looking at here, estimated to be about 20 feet long, captured by an infrared sensor aboard a US military platform in 2020. It's becoming an increasingly worse and worse nightmare for national security that can't be ignored like some kind of alien elephant in the room, whether they're foreign drones, sensor anomalies, or something otherworldly entirely. Repeated reports of unidentified objects near nuclear facilities stretching back decades now is forcing war planners to confront the question of who or what is demonstrating the ability to penetrate some of the most heavily defended airspace on Earth.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be investigated. Let's be honest. We get our serious hat on. It needs to be investigated. I think that if they're messing with nuclear stuff, which I've heard in Lou Elizondo's book, he was talking about nuclear sites, nuclear weapons being like turned off and stuff by weird anomalies. That stuff needs to be investigated. It could be nothing. It could be just boring. It could be nothing. But it still needs to be investigated because, yeah, it's a national security threat. The truth is, I believe personally, yes, I am going insane. I believe that the world, and this is like a thing, as I've got older, I've realized that the world is way more bizarre than I ever thought it was. I used to be such like a materialist and think that if I can't see it, if I can't see it right in front of me, then it's not real. But the truth is, I think the world's weirder than that. I really do.
Recently declassified double dump of UFO documents shows a history of interest by the US government stretching back to World War II. Within the documents, we have some of the earliest official UFO reports and the origin of the Foo Fighter phenomena with the 415th Night Fighter Squadron. In one of the earliest memos dating back to 1944, an officer within the 415th reports to the commanding general of the 1st Tactical Air Force saying, quote, "We have encountered a phenomena which we cannot explain. Crews have been followed by lights that blink on and off, changing colors, etc. The lights come very close and fly formation with our planes. They are agitating and keep the crews on edge when they encounter them, mainly because they cannot explain them. It is requested further information be furnished on this subject, such as similar experiences of other night units."
So
the memo
weird.
is chilling because it paints a picture of a bunch of American aviators already under the incredible stress of fighting combat missions amidst World War II, now being harassed by mysterious lights that come very close to their planes.
I do want to preface this, and I think this is important to say. When I was in the military, there were moments where I did hallucinate because of sleep deprivation and being hungry and probably dehydration and exhaustion. At the end of the day, I was in Royal Marines Commando training, right? Like, there's going to be moments where you're really struggling. And one of the first things because it happened to, I think it happened to me like 3 times where I started to hallucinate from sleep deprivation and just exhaustion. And each of them times, it started with flashing lights. Like, you would see kind of like little flashing lights in the sides of your eyes and stuff. And if you've been in the military, you've probably done this, but you've probably seen this before. It's very common when you're exhausted from military training. Just like in the corner of your eyes, like flashing lights and stuff. And sometimes it would escalate depending on what we were doing in the field. And sometimes it'd just dissipate and it would go away. And so you can't rule out this thing of sleep deprivation, tiredness, the fact that when you're in the military, you've got to be like 100% switched on and present at all times, which is exhausting over hours and hours and hours. Pilots, I couldn't imagine how switched on they've got to be constantly. However, so when it says lights flying around, if it was just one pilot, then you could probably be like, maybe he was dehydrated and having a bad day, maybe didn't get sleep that night, whatever. You know, they're going on a really dangerous mission. Could have been like high anxiety, high worry, you know, all these things, all these things. But when there's multiple pilots seeing the same thing, that's when things start getting a little bit weird and wacky.
In another memo, an incident where a fighter encountered lights flying in a T formation is highlighted amongst a list of other anomalous events, and this particular incident is especially chilling in light of a very recently leaked memorandum from a modern day incident. In the modern after action report, an unnamed senior intelligence official whose identity remains a secret relays a bewildering encounter with UFOs over a US weapons test range in the continental United States. According to his report, the test range has been reporting these anomalous lights and crafts prior to his arrival, which,
Oh
while
my
not
God.
stated, probably predicted his deployment and subsequent investigation. In this incident, radar detected anomalous objects in the same part of the test range that they'd been previously witnessed by ground personnel. Hopping into a helicopter, he and his crew flew to the location and witnessed multiple anomalous lights for themselves. At
Is
one
this
point, the lights came to right outside his helicopter, lining up and forming a T formation on either side, just like in the 1944 report.
so
The event
weird?
ended with a massive display of lights on the mountain directly ahead of his helicopter before he and his crew were forced to return back to base because they were bingo on fuel. Declassified files paint a clear pattern of UFO activity stretching back to World War II, and after the war, multiple agencies all arrived at the same conclusion: UFOs are real and pose a possible threat to national security. In the infamous
Isn't it bizarre that that is news and like it's not even mainstream? Like it's not even like I feel like if this was 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, it'd be like headlining news. And now people are just not bothered anymore, are they? It's mental, isn't it? Like the government's talking about UFOs and everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. Whatever.
Twinning memo, General Nathan Twinning stated the facts, saying, quote, "The phenomena reported is something real and not visionary or fictitious." He also highlights the anomalous speed and capabilities of these craft, as well as their habit of evading intercepting forces. The problem was not just an American one, though. In
Mm.
1948, reaching out to their Swedish allies on the flying saucer problem, quote unquote, U.S. Air Force intelligence officials were told that the Swedes had already been studying the phenomena and arrived at the conclusion that these crafts represented capabilities that no known culture on Earth had. Further, at the time of the
Wow.
visit by United States Air Force
Wow.
personnel, a crash had been observed by a credible witness with ties to Swedish defense. According to the witness, he had observed a craft crash or plunge into the lake outside of his home. When the Swedish military dispatched divers to investigate, they discovered a crater that hadn't been present on previous hydrological maps. As the investigation was still ongoing at the time of the report, it's unknown what the Swedes found or if they shared those findings with their American counterparts. Despite publicly downplaying
Weird.
any interest in UFOs, it's clear that the US military and intelligence agencies have been very interested in this phenomena. However,
Part of me just wants to see one, just so I can like be like, I 100%. Because even though I love watching this stuff, I love like reading about it, I love consuming the media about it. Like even like the films, like the fictional films, like Disclosure Day, all the way through to the first account books, like Lou Alessandro's books, or even like the weird theories by like Jacques Vallée, his books, Passport to Magonia, like all this weird and wacky stuff. I love it, but I'll never be 100% unless I see it. I guess there's that part of me that's still kind of, yeah, I believe the world's more wacky than I ever thought, but the the materialistic kind of way of looking at the world is still there a little bit of like, I just need that that last confirmation. Like I kind of like believe a lot of it already, but I just need to see it so I can be fully in. But at the same time, I feel like if I did see it, I'd make it my whole personality. You know what I mean? Like if I saw that, well, then again, I saw something weird out in Arizona. I didn't make it on my whole personality. If anything, it stopped me from wanting to look into it. So maybe if I saw a UFO, I'd be like, all right, that's it. I don't want to talk about this shit ever again.
the recent bombshell allegations by whistleblower David Grush tell that the U.S. is more than just interested, it is an active participant in the recovery of downed craft. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard of David Grush by now. And if you are living under a rock, we might all be joining you soon after aliens invade. But Grush was a senior intelligence official working for the Air Force, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and the National Reconnaissance Office. He even handled the daily presidential briefing. When it comes to credibility, he's about as credible as they come because it was literally his job to be credible. That makes Grush's claims all the more troubling because, according to him, a shadowy organization buried deep in the black world where intelligence agencies and private aerospace companies meet have been recovering downed craft for almost a century.
The thing is, I'm going to go on another bit of a talk here. The way it's worked from the books I've read, including Lou Alessandro's books and a bunch of other people's books, is during the Manhattan Project, it became very classified, this type of stuff. And the government couldn't handle it because it was too compartmentalized. And so they outsourced to private companies, Lockheed Martin and Skunk Works and all these military industrial complex companies, right? But now they've got their claws in it. There's so much money involved and research involved that it's not really disclosed to the government as much as it used to be. And so it's kind of separated from the government and it's all private companies now. So much so that they don't even brief. This is what it says in the book. This is not my idea. It's what they say in the books. So much so that they don't even brief the president because that changes every 4 years anyway. Maximum every 8 years. So they don't even brief people like that because they're coming and going constantly. And so it stays consistent within these private organizations.
Even more troubling, this group, known as the Legacy Program, has silenced whistleblowers permanently. In fact, it was these murder allegations that prompted Grush to go public, not the fact that non-human craft were being recovered. According to Grush, evidence of criminality and lack of congressional oversight prompted him to turn whistleblower. And the scary part is that the Inspector General of the intelligence community agreed with at least part of Grush's claims. The IGIC agreed that Grush was being retaliated against for whistleblowing by elements of the intelligence community, and that information was inappropriately being concealed by Congress, stating that his claims were deemed urgent and credible. The IGIC, however, did not comment on the specific information that Grush had brought forward. They simply found evidence that, indeed, some organization within the United States government was in fact withholding significant amounts of information from congressional oversight. The case only gets stronger in the recently released documents, though, in the age of disclosure, where a murderer's row of senior intelligence officials, physicists, presidential appointees...
I'm yet to actually watch that documentary. I really, really want to watch it.
Tier 1 operators, a former director of the CIA, and NSA personnel all supported the conclusion that Earth was in fact being visited by non-human intelligence. And it's all shaping up to be a national defense nightmare. Before getting into the more catastrophic implications, the first and most obvious problem is that the United States no longer has airspace dominance at home or abroad, and maybe never did. Publicly available evidence supports 4 conclusions about the UFO phenomena. First, most cases are ordinary but misidentified phenomena like balloons, birds.
That's the thing, like, you've got to take into account that a lot of it's probably bullshit.
Drones, satellites, or astronomical phenomena. Second, a significant number of UFO events remain unresolved simply because data is too low quality. Eyewitness accounts are valuable and hold weight, but without hard sensor data to back them up, arriving at a conclusion can be impossible. Further, even well-documented incidents can result in a failure to identify simply because the observing platform isn't suitable to the task. U.S. military platforms, for instance, are not designed to find and categorize UFOs. They're specifically built to detect, track, and interrogate known threats, such as jet aircraft, helicopters, and drones, as well as threats that are adjacent to those performance characteristics. The third conclusion is that in a small number of cases, a high enough number of credible witnesses and/or sensor platforms are involved to confirm a truly anomalous event. The fourth conclusion is that all publicly available evidence simply does not establish extraterrestrial or non-human technology. That's not to say there's no evidence for it, simply that there is insufficient for a gotcha moment, at least in the public sphere. This paints a picture of a massive national defense problem, ignoring the UFO threat for now. And trust me, we'll get back to those terrifying conclusions soon. The fact is that something is routinely violating US airspace with absolute impunity. Throughout the late
So
1940s
weird.
and 1950s, declassified documents show that a series of fireballs were routinely invading airspace over restricted facilities in New Mexico area. That pattern has never stopped. It simply stopped being reported.
Isn't that
Until recently,
mental?
that is. A 2021 Director of National Intelligence report stated that in 144 government reports, 11 near miss incidents occurred with anomalous craft. While in many of the cases presented, these craft interrupted training or real world operations. 3 years later, a 2024 report expanded to include 757 reports, including a civilian incident where a commercial airliner nearly crashed into a cylindrical object off the coast of New York. These
What?
objects don't necessarily have to be non human in origin to show that there's a massive tracking and identification problem within the US military. One only needed to look at the infamous Chinese spy balloon incident, which quickly led to the realization that NORAD had serious blind spots. That's not necessarily their fault. Radars are designed for a set of customizable filters, which let their operators tailor the radar to detect a certain range of targets, but these filters work by ignoring anything that produces a return outside of a specific envelope, typically speed and maneuver. This way, critical air defense radars aren't overwhelmed with non threat returns from clouds, birds, and well, spy balloons.
It makes sense, right? Like they're looking for specific things. But we're getting to the point now where tech is getting so advanced that we kind of do have to look for everything now. Tech's just getting too advanced now, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure the US is already coming up to conclusions like that. It's way above my pay grade.
And that's a very human problem that the UFO phenomena has highlighted. Adversaries have been exploiting anomalous performance characteristics to slip right through our most sensitive detection modalities. In this case, it was a spy balloon likely soaking up ELINT, but meaning electronic intelligence. But with war against China on the very near horizon, the next time it could be a balloon with a payload of cruise missiles,
Yeah.
slowly but surely inching its way deep into American territory, where it can deliver a devastating strike against industrial and economic targets.
Even worse, AI drones. You just don't know these days.
If objects are man made, as the overwhelming majority are bound to be, then they should be searchable, trackable, and identifiable, specifically in the modern age of drone warfare. This can be difficult for traditional radar systems without triggering a runaway cascade of false positives that increases tensions and erodes readiness. But integration of artificial intelligence may be the solution, allowing smart air defense systems to guide their operators toward real threats and away from likely innocuous contacts. Our solution here at the channel is to just shut it all down, ground all aircraft permanently. If man was meant to fly, he would have wings. Air travel is blasphemy against God. The next big problem the UFO phenomena poses for national security is also not just related to UFOs. What is abundantly clear after decades of public UFO interest is that the very reporting mechanisms that we rely on to identify friend from foe have completely failed us. In 2024, ODNI reported that 444 out of the 757 reports did not have enough information to even begin an analysis.
444. That's such a significant amount of cases. And it's just, this is the thing, how much stigma in the military is there as well, so much so that people don't want to just be like, we should probably investigate what the hell this is. Because I know when you're in the military, there's a lot of like reputation on the line. And if you start saying weird shit, people will come down hard on you. Trust me. And so there's this stigma, and I can't even imagine what that's like in the Air Force as a pilot, or if you're working around nuclear weapons. Like, you can't say anything, and so that stigma needs to disappear firstly.
Part of that is the censor problem that we highlighted before, but a big part of that has been revealed to be a culture of self-censorship within the very agencies who should be immediately speaking up about anomalous aircraft.
Literally was just saying that.
The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has been widely panned for suppressing UFO events and even outright lying about its conclusions. For example, they never once asked to speak to David Grush or other high profile whistleblowers, and they
Yeah.
refused the classified information that they could only relay inside of SCIF. That's a strange move for an office whose goal is allegedly to resolve the anomaly of the UFO phenomena. But
The
the agency
problem as well is that government is so it's so like left versus right, red versus blue, that instead of actually talking about things like this, which can be a genuine national security threat outside of the weird and wacky, people are too busy wanting to finger point and gain points against the other people than to actually make proper change. They're only talking about change that is talking points for their side. And that's the unfortunate reality of having a two-party system at the moment, unfortunately.
did admit that its ability to resolve incidents was consistently constrained by two factors: not receiving data in a timely and actionable manner, and an unwillingness within the U.S. military and intelligence agencies to speak up about the UFO phenomena. In its 2024 report, AARO stated that it received no reports from geointelligence or signals intelligence and mass in agencies, though they did allow the AARO team to pursue curated intelligence databases on individual cases when they were brought up. This is either a massive failure of US intelligence agencies, reporting culture, or deliberate cover up. The sheer number of
I think it's a
UFO
mix of all
events
of it.
every year makes it impossible that during AARO's half-year-long investigation, the world's most premier intelligence agencies simply did not encounter a single incident to report. Even more damning is that when they were confronted with specific incidents that had occurred, they were legally bound to open up at least part of their intelligence databases, showing that they had in fact detected and tracked the event to some degree. Further findings discovered a culture of silence deep within the US military and supporting agencies, with witnesses self censoring out of a fear of being ridiculed for what they had observed. This is widely attested to not just within AARO's investigation, but from the flood of whistleblowers and witnesses that have come forward since David Grush went public with his claims. The problem
Yeah,
was
because the truth is, since David Grush has come out, other whistleblowers have started to come out now. They've started to say, look, we can actually do something about this and talk about it. But nothing's really happening still.
so significant that the US Navy and Air Force both instigated new guidelines for personnel to report anomalous events, encouraging witnesses to speak up rather than remain silent. This critical vulnerability is not just a problem if UFOs are non human in origin, but very obviously, again, a problem because anomalous behavior can be used by foreign adversaries to conceal their activities. If US security personnel, for instance, are self censoring out of a fear of ridicule, then an adversary is encouraged to exploit that vulnerability by developing new, novel intelligence gathering or direct action capabilities. If your base security isn't reporting flying discs, then the next flying disc that they may see may just be a Chinese or Russian spy craft
True.
flying under cover of ridicule culture alone. The
True.
very
That
real
that is that is a massive. That's another massive security threat. Is the fact that the US, I'm sorry, China and Russia know that there's a stigma, and so they use that stigma as an advantage to get intel. That's massive.
very uncomfortable
I hope the audio's loud enough for you. My audio's been messing up recently, and if it's not, let me know in the comments. I'll keep trying to mess with it, but something happened where it got updated and all my audio changed, so I'm hoping it's loud enough for you.
reality is that objects don't need to possess impossible technology to exploit vulnerabilities in US national security. But let's pivot back to the claimed heart of the matter. UFOs display capabilities no human physics can match, and a growing body of extremely credible individuals all tell the same story. They're not human in origin. First, let's explore the non human angle. And here we have to be specific and say non human and not alien or extraterrestrial. Individuals deep in US intelligence have all been careful to make the distinction between the two terms, preferring the first and raising the possibility that whatever is behind the phenomena, it may not be from off-world quite as we understand it. The most immediate and obvious conclusion is that critical US infrastructure is completely vulnerable, and incursions into this infrastructure is the most concrete threat. The 2024 ODNI report quoted 18 incidents near U.S. nuclear facilities and infrastructure, including weapons storage depots, launch sites, or support facilities.
Yeah, there's like reports where they would fly over and then just switch everything off. Which is just insane considering what it's switching off, its nuclear capabilities.
This follows a trend dating back to the dawn of the atomic age, when UFOs were being reported over Los Alamos National Laboratory shortly after the first nuclear detonation. Over the course of the Cold War, UFOs seemed drawn to nuclear infrastructure, with numerous high-profile incidents, including the infamous 1967 Maelstrom Air Force Base incident. During this incident, former launch officer Robert Salas claimed that security personnel above his silo spotted a massive UFO in the vicinity. Per Salas, the missiles he was overseeing then went into launch status, something that should have been impossible to happen without his direct control.
That's
Luckily for
scary.
everyone who doesn't want to live in a permanent Fallout LARP, the missiles then shut down themselves. The incident has been denied by the Air Force since it became public in 1990. The skeptical claim is that the official record from the 341st Strategic Missile Wing doesn't show that anything anomalous happened that evening in question. However, the Pentagon would go on to directly undermine this skeptical argument in an attempt to present their own credible alternative. According to the Pentagon, the missiles in question had indeed been affected, directly undermining decades of claims that no incident took place.
We're talking about nuclear capabilities here being switched on and off. Just think about how terrifying that is.
However, the Pentagon claimed that the incident was the result of a test involving an electromagnetic pulse generator, which had been, at the time, classified.
Maybe.
We spoke to a nuclear security expert on our team. Actually, that's true. For 6 years he did it. And the story doesn't pan out for several reasons, according to our expert Josh. First, the EMP device that the Pentagon claimed was responsible was the Transportable Electromagnetic Pulse Simulator, which made use of a device lifted 60 feet into the air, which transmitted energy down into a test bunker via cables. This device had to be constructed and operated in plain view of above-ground security personnel. To put it simply, there is no chance that a 60-foot contraption was erected in the middle of an active missile field, and security personnel on multiple shifts didn't see it happen.
Yeah.
Further, the device needed to run cables into the test facility itself, a detail that Salas and his fellow launch officers would have also seen happening. Perhaps most damning, though, of all of this to the official explanation is that the device quoted by the Pentagon wasn't even operational until 1973, with concept drawings of it created in 1971, a full 4 years after the Salas incident. The Pentagon's official explanation also directly damns the historical, skeptical argument that nothing anomalous could have happened because nothing was reported in the security logs. It's clear now that the security logs are simply not a reliable source of information. Most concerning of all...
Well, obviously they're just trying to like cover the backs there, aren't they? Because at the end of the day, if it got out to the public that our nuclear capabilities are not under our control and that another entity can just switch them off and on at will, that's going to scare a lot of people. And the truth is, all this information is coming out now, but it's almost as if it's like an information overload. Like there's so much information now that it's like, you can't get through it all. And some of it might be real, some of it might not be. Everything on the internet might be fake these days because of AI. Like you just don't know anymore. And that's almost like scary in itself, isn't it?
Is that after the fall of the Soviet Union, a treasure trove of UFO reports and witnesses was made available to the West, and direct parallels were discovered. It seems that everything the US had been experiencing was also happening in the Soviet Union. A clear and terrifying picture was coming together. Something where somebody was penetrating the most sensitive facilities in the world with complete impunity. And the two sole superpowers could do nothing to stop it. This poses a significant problem that lasts to this day, as there is no indication that UFO incidents over or near sensitive nuclear facilities have slowed per the ODNI reporting. If whistleblowers are to be believed, though, the US has developed at least some capability of intercepting these crafts. Allegedly, the use of very powerful electromagnetic weapons has on some occasion led to the downing of UFOs, allowing for their recovery. This is a technique the US may have discovered in the 1960s when former presidential advisor and economist Harold Malmgren stated in his final interview before dying that the US had purposefully carried out a nuclear test with the intent of downing a UFO. According to Malmgren,
if that's true, that is an insane story. Imagine being part of that. All right, yeah, we're seeing all this weird stuff. It's not out to the public, but what we're going to do is we're going to set off a nuke and we're going to try and catch one. Could you imagine the atmosphere in that room?
UFOs were so commonly observed during nuclear tests that they were nicknamed tag-alongs. Thus, during one specific test, a device was modified to produce significant extra levels of X-rays. In the 1962 test, according to Malmgren, the nuclear detonation succeeded in knocking down the tag-along object. The
Wow.
Navy then recorded the downed object, but when he inquired about it, Malmgren was told that he had need to know on the specifics of the missile tests, but not on the tag-along craft. Whether the US had indeed developed a way of downing UFOs, and hopefully without raining nuclear bombs from the sky or not, the continued pattern of UFO sightings at the nuclear facilities makes it clear that whatever is behind the phenomena is still able to act with impunity, a significant blow to national security.
Again, we're getting to the end of this video now. Again, like, I want to believe it. And again, I find it fascinating, so much so that I do like digest all the media when it comes to UFOs. I need that confirmation of actually seeing one day to be like, I'm fully in.
Implications for national security are dire. And at this point, it doesn't even matter if the UFO phenomena is little green men from Mars or interdimensional visitors or breakthrough technologies from foreign adversaries. If the US cannot maintain custody over its own nuclear weapons and a credible nuclear deterrent active, then it is only as secure as it is being allowed to be by whatever agent is behind the UFO phenomena.
Absolutely fantastic
NATO
video
is getting very concerned
by Cappy Army. I will leave a link down below to the original video. Make sure you go over there, give it some love. If you're not subscribed to Cappy Army already, you've got to go and subscribe. I hope so much he keeps putting out these UFO videos because they're just sick. They're so good. Check out Chug if you haven't already. Go buy yourself one right now. Check out Morale if you haven't already. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.